There we go. Happy Friday evening, everybody. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. Guess what? It has been such a long time since we played a game on a Friday night. It has been a really long time. We were just talking about it the other night. I miss bingo. I still miss bingo. And maybe one of these days we return to it. But in the meantime, we have had a couple of crossword puzzle nights. And my memory was that they were fun. Those were the answers right there. But that was too fast of a flash, wasn't it? My memory was we really enjoyed them because on these Friday night game nights, particularly with the crossword, I can ask a question and it makes you think back to past episodes, right? Because there's how many episodes on this channel now? Like thousands, right? So when we come up with a name, or I don't want to say date, I didn't do any dates, but if we come up with a name or something specific, it might be because you remember back to one of these older episodes. And that is exciting, isn't it? We've covered so much on this channel, and we will continue to. There's lots more to talk about. So let me start by saying, Sharon, it's great to see you. Happy Friday. And Haunt's great to see. Lar, it's great to see you in Las Vegas. Welcome back. Friday afternoon for you. It's a little bit earlier. New Moon, happy weekend to you too. Lori, happy weekend in Minneapolis. Great to see you. Welcome. Jessica, great to see you. Happy Friday night. Are you ready? Are you ready for gaming? Did you all? Now, maybe you didn't see the ad for it or whatever, and you just logged on because it's Friday, right? But I did put out, and I'll give you a minute because you could do this. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks. I have like my sleep shirt under it. I'm so bad these days. I'm so lazy these days. I was out all day. I have to say, I was out all day. Jocelyn, my daughter, had her heart doctor today, which was a bit stressful. She had an echo, 45 minutes. She had another EKG, and there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with her heart. At least no sort of scary anomalies that they look for in these situations. So it's been a long day so far and stressful, but it's nice to be back. Maybe I should not be drinking water. Maybe I should be drinking vodka. We'll see. We'll see what the evening brings. Let's see, Joy, great to see you. Diane, great to see you. You know, you have a minute while we catch up and I get myself settled. You have a minute, if you haven't yet, to download the crossword. If you'd like to do it together as we play, mine is all filled in. So yours won't be, right? You have the clues like any other crossword. And this is all rug hooking trivia. So rug hooking and rug making trivia. Sometimes we've done other themes that are a little bit more broad, and maybe we'll do that again. But for this one, it's been long enough that I was able to think of a bunch of questions. My husband helped me come up with some of these questions, and it made definitely enough for a show. If anything, it's on the large size. But it's there in the Facebook group. There's a link to it to print. It's there if you came in through Tigger. There's a link to print. And if you just saw my post because you're a subscriber on YouTube, it's there too. If you saw the ad for the show, it's there. So if you have a quick finger to print the crossword out, you could put it in front of you and we could do these together. Otherwise, I'm going to go through them. I'll do the acrosses first and then we'll do the downs. And I'll try to give you a minute knowing that there's a delay. The fire does look cheery, doesn't it? You know, it snowed again today. Kind of thought we were over it. I was hoping we were over it. It snowed a ton. It was something that I like even less than a snow forecast. It was the wintry mix. And I was so nervous because I had this appointment with the heart doctor and it was like an hour and a half away. And the forecast suddenly yesterday was wintry mix. And my mom brought it to my attention and I thought, you've got to be kidding me. You can't like not show up at the specialist because they'll never give you an appointment again. Like they'll never get you in anytime soon. And I was so worried. But it turned out that the driving was fine. We have snow forecast or wintry mix forecast for the next 2 days in Connecticut, always on the weekend, which is a bummer because I was really hoping to peel off tomorrow and have a Mama and Teddy day. Teddy was, I'm sure he'll come visit us later. He asked me, he said that it's been a long time since we had a Mama and Teddy day. And I thought, you know what, let's go. I was thinking, let's drive over to Kent, Connecticut, if anybody knows that area. There's a covered bridge nearby in Cornwall. I haven't been there for 20 years, but they used to have a cute little main street with a clothing store where they it also was a cat rescue. Uh-oh. and a bunch of other cute little places, like a little restaurant inside an old train depot, It seemed so nice. And there's a beautiful waterfall there. I don't know that I want to be looking for covered bridges and waterfalls if it's going to be a wintry mix. We'll have to see what happens. But I wonder if you are getting slayed again with winter weather. It is what it is, right? At least we got a ton of rain today, and as much as I love looking at the snow and as beautiful as it is, I am ready for the yard to be clear so we can walk on the trails behind the house and the dog can have a little bit more space. But we get what we get. Where can I find it, Karen? It is so if you're in the Facebook group, it's in the post for tonight, right there in the Facebook group. If you're a subscriber on, um, Karen, you are in the Facebook group, right? So if you go to the Facebook group and you click on featured, right? It's one of the I always feature these shows. I pin them to the top. If you click on featured, I don't know if you're on your phone or your laptop. Yeah, it's in the description of that's right. It's in the description of this YouTube video as well. So if you click on description here, there's a link to it here too. But if you do Facebook, I'll just show you this just in case. I know, technology, right? No thanks. So I go on my phone, I find, the Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club, and that's the club, and I just switched the cover to Jessica's hooked version of Karen Garby and Kirsten Gay's llamas on the front cover of Magpie. And I click on featured, which is one of the choices. And then it shows me the featured stuff. I put this photo in because I didn't really have a photo for the game. So I just put one of me and the kids. And if you look at the text for it, the download is right there on the text. So you should be able to click it and print it. I hope that helps. But it's also in the description of this video. So it's in a few places. Mom, there you are. So good to be with me and all of our buddies. I'm not good at crossword. Well, Mom, this will be a hard one for you because my mom watches because she loves me. She's not a rug hooker or puncher, but I bet you would know a lot of the answers because we talk about all of this stuff all the time, right? I thought maybe next time we would do, I don't know, like a word search. I mean, word searchers aren't quite as ambitious. I think if you love a puzzle and you're a gamer, maybe word searches don't quite do it for you, or maybe they do, with this, I don't know if you can hear that, but it sounds like bedlam behind me. It sounds like it's a Victorian period. It's like the 1880s, and I'm in the middle of bedlam, and there are patients in their bedrooms behind me. I wrote all of, sorry, children. This is why you're supposed to have children young, right? Because you have no sense of humor when you're older. I wrote out all of the questions and my husband put it into a crossword. It works really well. If you're looking for you know what? If you go to your guild or whatever, or you do fun stuff with other rug hooking buddies, you're welcome to print this out to bring to guild or to share with guild. You can absolutely do that. It's here for us to have fun, right? You don't have to ask me permission for stuff like that ever. So just know that it's there if you want to bring it and you have friends who you think would enjoy it another time. They can get the answers from you if you fill yours in, or they can get the answers here because this show will always be here. God willing, right? Nothing crazy happens on YouTube. Diane says it's 20 degrees colder again in Illinois today. It snowed, lots of tornado warnings yesterday in Illinois and Indiana. So winter is dragging and spring bad weather is early. Yeah, it's true, isn't it? It's so true. I'm sorry to hear that. Gail, you have the opposite in Australia. Good morning, my love. Happy coffee time to you. And Sharon says snowing here. Karen's in New York. Sharon's in New York. Karen, tell me if you found the link because I'd like to think that you've got that printed out and you're ready to blow here. Sharon says snowing here. We had ice this afternoon. Went to the cardiologist. Oh, you were at the cardiologist too. And a tractor trailer jackknifed in the road in front of us. Oh my God! Because of the bad weather. That is scary. I wasn't going to say, Mom, but I saw a lot of accidents too. And it wasn't even that slippery. You know what it is? It's people being stupid. It's not even sometimes it's not even the weather. It's just people being stupid and taking chances. Yeah, that's not what you need on the way to cardiology, right? Gets your heart going a little bit too fast. All right, I'm going to hope. Oh, Myra, great to see you in Virginia. Welcome back. I'm so happy to see you. So I'm going to hope that you all have it printed out if you want it printed out. And otherwise, you can still play, right? You can still join in, but it is fun to fill in the squares, isn't it? So let's get going because I put together a full show where we have visuals too. It's not just me, right? I have visuals for the answers to all of these things too. So give me a shout out, right? I'll listen really hard, but there is a delay, so I'll see how our pacing goes. But let's start with the across, right? So the first across question is number 4. This is our first one. So this is the clue. This historic Canadian style of hooking uses a tiny little rug hook. What is it? What is that? A historic style of hooking. But it's not a regular sized rug hook. It's a teeny tiny little rug hook. What do you think? I know many of you know what it is. And of course, if you have the puzzle, it's even easier to figure it out because you can see how many letters it is too. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's 10 letters. So because I know, still bedlam, sorry about that. Because I know, no, Jessica, that's a great guess. That's a different style of Canadian rug hooking. But no, there is something different about Grenfell, and I think that question might be coming up later. Diane, that one got you too. Nope. Nope. These are all great guesses. Linda, great to see you. Linda, I think you did a typo. Yep. Chetty Camp. It is Chetty Camp. So Chetty Camp is spelled, oh no, did I misspell Chetty Camp? Oh no, did I misspell Chetty Camp? Oh God, this is my biggest worry is that I'm going to misspell something or it's going to autocorrect. Yeah, I did. I am so sorry. I had an extra T in there. Did that really screw you up? Right on the first one, there's a problem. I am so sorry. That is me. I am so sorry. I know how to spell Chetty Camp. I don't know how that happened. I am so sorry. So go ahead and put in Chetty Camp with the wrong spelling. I'm sorry about that. I must have had it with 2 T's. I honestly don't know how that happened. I write Chetty Camp all the time. Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that, everyone. That's why you all thought it was Grenfell? I am so sorry. No, that doesn't fit either, right? So it's Chetty Camp. And again, put 2 T's, even though that's incorrect. I am so sorry. Heard it twice, but autocorrect took it away again. I know. So frustrating, isn't it? I'm going to have to check really carefully. I hope there's not other ones like that. Dang it. All right. Well, you know that the first one is Chetty Camp, and now you know how to spell it incorrectly. But there it goes into number 4 across. Let's move to oh, you know what? Let me show you what I have for that first. I almost forgot that we have some great visuals. And, ooh, I can't do them in order. Okay, yep, I see. Okay, hold on. Let's see. I've got to get to it. Now I'm alphabetical here. There we go. So the answer is Chetty Camp, misspelled. And, you know, it's so, believe it or not, there's not a lot of images of the Chetty Camp hooks online. I know, it's like, maybe that is easy to believe. Because it's having a big renaissance now, of course, because of Betty Ann Cormier. So in this picture, I'm hoping that you could, this is from Betty Ann's site. She does a lot of social media stuff. And I hope that you can see that both of these women are holding these teeny tiny little hooks. They almost look like dollhouse hooks. They're like, you know, maybe 3 inches long kind of a thing. So they are much smaller than what we're used to using. You know, and Chetty Camp is done with yarn, right? And it's a little bit thinner. It's like a 2-ply Briggs & Little kind of equivalent, or could be 2-ply Briggs & Little, but it is thinner yarn, right? It's almost like Chetty Camp looks to me a little bit like cross stitch because it's so petite. Everything about it, the tulle, the stitches, the yarn is a little bit of a thinner gauge. Here's Betty Ann Cormier and I at Tigger in 2024, and she's on her Chetty Camp frame. You can see it's a little bit cut off here. Now remember, Betty Ann, I'm going to close this window. Betty Ann now does do like the Chetty Camp sort of experience. It's a class that lasts, I think, like 4 nights. It comes up in, I want to say late summer. I think it's September. I think it's September. This will be the 2nd year that she's putting this on. And from what I heard, Karen, you went last year. everyone I went who, did this with Betty Ann said it was such an experience. Just not just, you can't break it down into a money thing and say that it costs this much divided by days. Because from what I heard, Betty Ann, and she is a love, she really went out of her mind and bent over backwards, did like backward flips to create such a beautiful sort of tour experience for people who were visiting, going to all of the local places that had to do with rug hooking, all of the places that had something to do with Chetty Camp history, as well as taking lessons and classes and hearing speakers. And it sounds like it was jam-packed from beginning to end. She worked so hard to make that into something special that would never be forgotten, that was like exceeded expectations. And from what I've heard from everyone who experienced that, it did exceed expectations, and it's there for you again this year for signups. So make sure that you look. If you just Google Chetty Camp with one T, Betty Ann Cormier, Cormier. You can always write to me if you can't find it in a hurry. Something to think about, right? If you have money for extra vacations and you like to travel and traveling works for you, this is something to really think about because it's like one of these really super special. How about sock yarn? I think weirdly this is like a Goldilocks thing. Sock yarn could be a little bit thin, right? 3-ply is a little bit thick. Sock yarn's a little bit thin. 2-ply is just right. I bet that you could. But I would say if you're using sock yarn, I'm not sure that you could work 1-ply in all traditional backings. I'd say that I think, for example, rugwarp would work. And I don't think, I know there's going to be people who disagree, but I would be very reluctant to use single strand of sock yarn in linen, definitely not burlap or monk's cloth, just because the loop won't be held well enough on the sides. Rugwarp would be the only thing I would say maybe, but I think it's still a little bit thin. I rug hook for sure with sock yarn, but I usually at least double, sometimes quadruple, and sometimes do even an 8-ply. I do crazy times just to get some traction because it's so small. That's a great question. And when I say linen, right, I maybe have different linen than you have. Same thing with monk's cloth. So it might be that you have a backing that is, for example, linen, and you say, well, I do sock yarn, rug hook 1-ply with sock yarn into that backing, and I never see a problem. That, you always have to give it a try just to see. With sock yarn, I use for a mini punch as a 1-ply as opposed to traditional punch. Oh, that reminds me, my gosh, I forgot to tell you. So International Punch Needle Day is coming up the first Saturday in March, right? So it's coming up very soon. Let me get the calendar. So that's coming up on March 7th. So what I wanted to tell you was that my buddy Rebecca, right, who's a certified Pro McGowan rug hooker teacher, but also a certified Oxford puncher. And she's like the big puncher in my life, right? We're super close. Storyteller Wool, right? Rebecca White Martin. So we were talking about what to do for International Punch Day, because even though the Oxford company will do something on the Saturday, she was saying, well, we might want to do something through Tigger. Maybe some of you logged on from Tigger tonight through the link I put there. So there will be a Tigger event, right? This is a Tigger event, but since I'm the president of Tigger, I'm letting you know too. I know a lot of you have already joined Tigger, and there's lots of events that are already there recorded for posterity. They are there for you. But there's also a lot of events coming up as we get traction, we get closer. We're about to announce teachers, the event, hotel stuff, all of that. There's lots of stuff coming up. It's a good time to be a member if you aren't a member already, particularly before March 7th, when Rebecca hosts a punch event before the Oxford Punch event starts. And I drew a pattern this weekend. Let me show you a preview of it. I drew a pattern this weekend that has to do with Newport, which is where Tigger will be held. Oh no, Arian, why can't I? Oh, there it is. The symbol of Newport is the pineapple for welcome. And it's like a myth, but when sea captains came home and they put a pineapple from like foreign shores, right, on their big sort of pillar outside their house to say like, I'm home. It is a symbol of Newport. So I made this design, if you can see it. yesterday, and Rebecca was super happy with it. It's very symmetrical design. I'm very proud of it. You see the way that the lines come off of the greenery, the leaves of the pineapple, and kind of join the grid, and the little things that inside the pineapple squares. You know how it has texture. It looks almost like a little square. I tried to make them look like little seagulls, a little bit of a nautical flavor. Anyway, this pattern will be a download for Tigger members, and Rebecca will be there on that Saturday to do a hook along. And the evening before, of course, will be cocktail night here at Ribbon Candy Hooking. And Rebecca will join me for cocktail night that night. So we will have her as a guest the evening before on Friday, March 6th. So two things to put on your calendar. Also to put on your calendar the day before that, Thursday, March 5th, I moved the Design Like Clarice Cliff class to that day. So make sure that you're signed up for that. I was working on that while Joss was having all those tests today. Been working on it for a few days, reading her biography. God, is it an exciting story. I can't tell you. Pottery, right? But all of those beautiful storybook cottages, abstract shapes, right? Geometrics, trees, 100 different ways to do trees. It's a beautiful class for rug hookers because you will make a whole bunch of designs that you will run with. I can guarantee it. So make sure all of that fun stuff is on your calendar. Thank you. I like that design too. If it's easy to join, it should be easy to join. Catherine, if you have any trouble, let me know. You shouldn't have trouble. I heard at the beginning that people who are using like Apple Wallet or something, there was like a charge or something, or there was a problem. But that problem, I believe, is resolved. And if you have a problem, definitely let me know, and I will put you in touch with Rebecca, or you can write to Rebecca directly. Fixing stuff on the computer is definitely not me, but it's one of us, so I can get you to one of us, and we're all obviously friendly and want you to be in there. Lots of stuff going on over there. Karen says of the sock yarn would slip out. The backing is special to Chetty Camp. Oh, Karen, the backing is special to Chetty Camp where it's 12 holes across and 12 holes down per inch. What does it look like? Karen, does it still look like burlap? Is it brown, or does it look more like monk's cloth? Is it like a white cotton, the backing? Interesting. That's great information because, of course, Karen was there for that Chetty Camp event. Already downloaded. Nice one, Rita. Are you good with the Cardinals, by the way? Let me know if you're not, because I can work on that. It's been nonstop, but I'm gonna pause tomorrow and get some sanity. Okay, let's move on. All of that good information is out there in the ether now, right? You know what's going on. So, oh no, I'm not gonna leave you yet. Let's move to 8 across. 8 across. This style of rug, usually extra wide, is referred to by its place in the living room. In other words, we name this rug, we refer to this rug by its name according to where it is put in the house. Do you know what I mean? That's what I meant to type my first period. The video is about Claire's. Oh, that's what I meant to type in the first post here. The video is about Clarice's. Is that a video that you sent me, Diane? Her bizarre line? That's okay. Was that is that something you sent me? That's not something I posted, right? Instead of, for example, the crossword. That would be bad. But if I did do that, I want to fix that pretty quickly. That would be classic me. I wasn't watching a video about that, though. So it can't be. Paranoia. Looks like Scottish burlap. Karen, interesting, because Scottish burlap is, I mean, it's in my opinion, the nicest of the burlaps, but not particularly tight. Isn't that interesting? Gosh, okay. Jessica, it is a hearth rug. Well done. Up top in this post. Up top in this post. Oh, you posted something here in the thread? Oh, I missed it. I missed it. Gosh, I missed it. Is it something I posted or something you posted? I just want to be sure I didn't post the wrong thing. Ariane, can you check the, but you wouldn't have posted something for Clarice Cliff, would you? No problem. Let me know if I did something wrong, just so I can, my husband's sitting right here, he could fix it. Jessica, well done, hearthrug. And I think the spelling is right on that. Let me check, just in case I was stupid. No, there it is, hearthrug. So let's look at examples of a couple of hearthrugs. Yes, you scroll up here. But did you post it, Diane? Did you post that link? Um, I'm just going to check really fast because I don't see the link on my thread. I just see what you all have written. I can't see the description. Can you check and see if there's a weird link in the description? I would be so surprised though because I haven't watched that yet. We'll figure it out. So let's come back over to Hearthrug. Just check what the links are in the show, will you, Arian? Hearthrug. I've got, I think, several examples because it was very hard to choose just one. You know, hearthrugs are typically antique. Why are I'm going to put this out here as a bonus question. Why are hearthrugs typically antique? Why do we typically see such old? Um, okay, okay, thank you. Why do we, when we look up a hearthrug, why do we see such old examples, right? Think about it, because I know you know the answer to this. This is an example of a hearthrug, and you see what I mean? It's wide. It's wider than, for example, you look at it, you think, oh, is that like a welcome mat size? No, it's wider. It's not twice as wide, but it's quite wide. People often used, for example, a feed sack opened up at the bottom, right? Because it was sewn maybe around the edges, but the bottom I'm sorry, it was wrapped around the edges, but the bottom was sewn. So often you could open up one way or the other a feed sack, right? Depending on the feed sack and the size of the feed sack, you could open it up and have one continuous piece. If not, if your feed sack was sewn all three sides, then you would just, you know, baste it back together or overlap it a little and hook through two layers. Do you know what I mean? So you ended up with a larger foundation cloth to make a larger rug. So this is an example of an old hearthrug. This is a 19th century. Let's look at another 19th century. Beautiful symmetry here. Here's another 19th century rug, not as wide. Hearthrugs do not have a set size. And guess why not? I'm going to give you the answer. This is the answer to the first question too. Hearthrugs are literally what they sound like. People who had a hearth, right, back in the day. So we're talking about like, I mean, we know rug cooking goes back at the earliest possible time, 1860s, 1870s. We think more like 1880s, really. Can't really go, can't confirm anything before 1880s, but there's a lot of mention of hooking in like 1860s. I think that's still a sewn rug. Who cares? But that's the sort of period that we're talking about. And in rural places at that time, people still had huge fireplaces, huge, because they were used for heating and they were used for cooking. It was literally the hearth is the heart of the home. So people still have giant, big, wide fireplaces. And people are living in older houses, right, that have lots of ells or additions built onto them as the family prospers, as the family grows, as other family members come and live. The house gets bigger, but often the sort of nucleus of the house, the original part of the house, still has that original fireplace and it's got a really wide hearth. So the hearth rug would go in front of the hearth. Now, at this point, we have confirmation that hearth rugs did not go down on the ground in the winter when the fire was burning because it would have been considered a fire hazard. It wasn't there to protect the floor, right? Embers hitting hard wood, and there was usually sand swept onto the floor in patterns, right? If you didn't have a rug done, you had like sand, you would sprinkle it, and then you would use your broom to make pretty swirling patterns. That was an art unto itself. But you would not put a hearthrug in front of the fireplace because it would be way more flammable if an ember came out, landed on the hearthrug, much more likely to go up in flames than landing on the floor. And we know that because we have studies, like contemporary studies of people who have studied like hundreds of hearthrugs. And one of these people in one of the past cocktail times or coffee times that we did said, out of the hundreds of examples of these hearthrugs, I saw one hearthrug with evidence of an ember having hit it. So we know that they weren't really used at the hearth unless it was like summertime and they weren't using the hearth. They were there for decoration and they reflected the size of the hearth. So while the whole hearth, right, while the whole thing was really like the whole length of a wall in these old houses, right? I don't mean 19th century, I mean the older houses. But in front of the fireplace part, that's what the hearthrug was for, right? To sit there, not to sit the whole length of the room like a runner. So that's why these hearthrugs are old, was because they were being made for older houses, right? And then when sort of electricity and everything comes in and different kinds of heating and different kinds of cooking and stoves and all of these innovations happen, we aren't looking at people wanting to fill up the space in front of their hearth anymore because they have closed the hearth behind a wall, right? You, as time goes on, you might have a giant, beautiful 1600s hearth, but you don't want people to see that because you're using the stove in the kitchen. So you're going to hide that under paneling, right? Nobody wants to show that because it just gives away the age of the house. You don't have a new sparkling new house, right? You're in an old house and you want to hide that. So we're no longer looking at hearths and we no longer need hearth rugs. Simple as that, right? So the hearth rug is a thing of the past, unless you would like to make a hearth rug yourself, right? That is a nice thing to do. So second example of a hearth rug, another beauty. We know that we're looking at a 19th century rug. We're seeing lots of fading, an original pattern, right? It does not have symmetry, but it is super, super lovely. We're seeing natural dye colors, red colors from berries and other, I don't want to say a keyword that appears later in the crossword, blues from lots of sources. I won't say those either because some of those questions are coming up. We're seeing lots of natural dyeing happening in the 19th century because people are typically wearing like brown clothes and dark clothes, so we don't get a lot of color variety. This is another, I had to put 4 examples of hearth rugs into this show because I knew you were the people to appreciate it, right? Valerie, great to see you. This is such a beauty, isn't it? This is such an unexpected beauty. It is that hearth rug size, right? Wider than it is deep. And how pretty is this? Somebody did something with a little bouquet, a little tied bouquet with a bow in the center, pretty pink colors. Somebody did some dyeing, I think, here. You don't expect people who would be making rugs, right, for use, right? You wouldn't be expecting those people to own pink and red clothing, maybe a red cape, but certainly not pink clothing. So this is probably stuff that was dyed, and they figured out that beautiful motif. And then it looks like they thought to themselves, well, what else should I do now? There's still some room left, and they made this kind of connected feather or leaf that's super pretty. And they mimicked that leaf, and they did it in black, which is unusual, but I bet that's what they had a lot of left. You see back in the black in the border, so it ties in very well. But I bet that's what they looked down at their rag bag and thought, I've got plenty of black. Let's do it. So it almost looks like a jumping rope with the black, and they tried to mimic that again with the small leaves. Very pretty composition. This is someone who did a beautiful job in the border. So maybe saw someone else's rug, copying an idea that they had, copying a print, or maybe even a dish, a piece of china. But they're trying to come up with ideas and fill this space. And the main idea they had is that sort of cluster or bouquet of flowers, and they're repeating that on the bottom 2 corners as well. So it's like, this isn't someone who's saying to themselves, well, I could just do one flower, or I could do a flower in a different position. This is someone saying, I have a good idea. It's to make a bouquet of flowers. And then it's like, ooh, okay, well, what should I do now? I'm going to make more bouquets of flowers. And it must have been a real brainstorm getting the idea for that leaf. There isn't a lot of room left if they put the 3 bouquets of flowers in first. It didn't leave a lot of room, did it? So it was like, ooh, what should I do? Good problem solving. So lovely, isn't it? Unusual color plan too for a rug that age. Another 19th century rug. Someone again who had a similar idea. How about a little spray of flowers? Okay, let's do it. And maybe they drew it as a stencil. Maybe they did because they reversed it, right? And it is kind of the same size, and really it looks quite similar. Don't you think? A little bit of variation, but it strikes me as something that someone might have cut out of a piece of paper and repeated, just flipped over and repeated, and thought to themselves, well, that's enough. I'm going to use all the browns from all of our crappy clothing, and I'm going to do the whole background. And it came out like sort of a marble cake background, all of those browns, and kind of a, I don't want to say hit or miss because it wasn't intended as a hit or miss. It was intended as a fill, right? It's just all these different brows. And you see how this person worked as well in blocks, right? Which does make me wonder whether there was more than one person working on this. This was probably stretched over a flat frame. Like like 4 pieces of wood put together, balancing between, for example, 2 tables or the kitchen table and maybe a chair or a counter, makes me wonder if there were a couple of people working on it from the 2 different sides, and that they were in the habit of saying, I'm going to make a square and fill it in, and opposite, that person is making a square and filling it in. Because you don't often see things in backgrounds as open as this. You usually see an echo fill where they're just going in the negative space round and around like a stone skipping a pond until there's no more room to put any more strips in. But here they've kind of broken it up into segments, which makes me think it might be more than one person working on it in a kind of hooking bee situation. Maybe. My mom says, love that rug. Wish my fireplace allowed for a hearth rug. Man, my mother or my father years ago spilled on that wood floor where she's talking in front of the fireplace, the most slippery substance on earth. I can't imagine anything has ever been more slippery. Lantern oil. Do you know what lantern oil is? I think my dad spilled like a drop of it like years ago. I mean, he's been gone for years ago. And man, I'll tell you, it's a good thing that the couch is now over that spot. The couch has to be over that spot because to this day, if you step with a sock on that lantern oil, whoosh, right across the fireplace and potentially out the big, not bay windows, the French sort of windows, floor to ceiling, right out into the garden. My mom almost did that once, and that would have been bad, right? So maybe you do need a rug in front of the fireplace, Mom, as like a speed bump in case you ever step on the lantern oil again. Jen, great to see you. Good afternoon, sunny and windy in California. So happy to see you. So happy you're here. Hi, Paula. Paula, there, it's you. Great to see you. Welcome back. I know these are such beauties. Did I show you all of the? I think I showed you all the hearth rugs. I just want to be sure. Um, yeah, I think that's it for the hearth rugs. So I'm going to close that and I'm going to come back to you. Well done, Jessica. Let's go to number 9 across. I'm going to speed things up here. 9 across. Clue. Between 1832 and 1835, Zorua Guernsey made this famous needlework textile in Castleton, Vermont. What is it called? I don't think I have both words in there. I think I just have the one. Oh, no, I have both words in there. And I know that you all know because we did a lot of episodes on this particular textile. And the challenge for this textile, I'm going to give you the answer. It's Caswell carpet. Caswell carpet all together. The Caswell carpet challenge is still officially open because until it's spring and the Historical Society in Castleton, Vermont reopens, I cannot continue my dialogue with them about showing our rugs there. So still open. You can still order Caswell carpet squares through Ribbon Candy Hooking, and a lot of people have made beautiful ones. Caswell carpet, well done you all. Let me show you to remind you what this beauty looks like. Let's see. Here we go. Looks like this. Now, talk about bonkers, right? And if you're saying 1832 to 1835, how is that possible? Well, she must have been a cuckoo bird because she got this done in those 3 years by herself. She was single. She hadn't yet married. In fact, when she married, she moved across the street with her husband and she did not take this carpet. And you want to guess why she didn't take this carpet? I'm going to leave that there for you if you want to make a guess. So all of these squares were attached at the end. She made the squares. This is with a needle. This is not hooked. Ryan, great to see you. Happy Friday night. She made them all individually and then she attached them later. Now I want to direct your attention to the far left-hand side. You see how down toward the bottom there is one piece that has kind of a pinked or triangle border around it on the left-hand side in a bouquet that's larger than the other pieces. That was where the hearth went. So in the summer, she had it looking like this. And exactly, Jessica, that's the answer. She didn't have room for it. So when she moved across the street with her husband, normally this kind of a needlework piece would have been a great prestige for her, right? And she would have brought it to her own home, but it didn't fit. It fit the room that she made it for. So she left it at her family's house. So that long piece that you're seeing on the far left, that was removable. And that's where the hearth was, right? So even no matter how you were making a rug at this period, that piece was taken out in the winter when the fire or fall, when it was cold and the fire would be going, that piece was taken away so that embers didn't come out and ruin the rug. Talk about a tragedy, right? This piece now belongs to the Folk Art Museum in Manhattan. It is not on display, much to my chagrin. They have heard from me many times on this subject, but it is not on display. This is one of the blocks of the Caswell carpet. I would dare say the most famous block. This is the Blue Cat. And there are children's books written about the Blue Cat or the Castleton cat. This is the Blue Cat. She was using dyes. I'm not going to say the words yet because, again, they are part of the thing, the puzzle later on. She did a lot of her own dyeing. She did this with a sort of a chain stitch and, again, with a needle. So the answer to that was Caswell carpet. Let's move to number 10. This state is where Sauter Village is held every August. And I'm going to bring you to that answer over here. If you printed out the puzzle, then you know there are only so many states that would fit that hole. Let's see. Ryan says the Caswell carpet measures approximately 156 by 147 inches. Yikes. Richard, I gotta say it. I'm not surprised that you know that figure or that that's interesting to you because Ryan does the largest pieces I have ever seen in the rug hooking punching world. Epically huge pieces, right? Ryan, this is your scale of rug we're talking about here. And Karen, you're right. It is Ohio. And I was there last year for the first time. Really enjoyed it, much more than I thought, I have to say. And I will be there again this year. I don't want to do anything this year. I did the talk in the gallery show last year. I think I just want to shop and hang out this year. And I would like to actually see Sauter Village. It looked really interesting. I put this picture in here for Sauter Village because if you are from the East Coast, in my area here, I think of Sauter Village as something like Mystic Seaport or like Sturbridge Village or like Plymouth Plantation or like maybe Strawberry Bank, one of these sort of recreation villages where they have either I'm trying to think of a single case where the houses in the village that is set up for tourism were there to begin with. I can't think of any examples where that is the case. Normally, in this case, I think it might be built to represent, I think this is more like the 1920s. For example, Mystic Seaport represents the 1860s here, that whaling a piece of Connecticut history, not history, but history. So they're all different. They all represent different moments in time. Sturbridge Village is a little bit older. Plymouth Plantation is even older, but they all represent different times in history. I know that Storrowtown at the Big E site in Springfield or Agawam, Massachusetts, Storrowtown is much, much smaller, but I know that all of those buildings are the period that is represented, which I think is late 1800s, maybe a little bit earlier. But they are all that period of house, but taken from all over the country and transported to be on that piece of land so that people can come and visit all of the stores and the houses and really feel like they're living in a different part of history. That's what Sauter Village is. Besides all these great events they host, like Rug Hooking Week. So last year, I didn't even get a chance to people were go into Sauter Village and go to the ice cream place and get like a phosphate or whatever they have there, some kind of a, shake or whatever. I didn't even have time to do that. I was only there for 2 days. So I'm looking forward to going and hopefully to seeing you this coming year. Diane says, finds pottery shards on Forest where factory is. You are like in reference to one of those outdoor museums, right? The living history museums. They have them all over the world because I know when we lived in the Netherlands, what are some of the Dutch ones, Ariane?
Dutch,
You're not listening, huh?
no.
No. Never mind. There's a whole bunch over there too. All right, so recreation villages. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let me get rid of this and let's go to, I'll come back to you over here. Let's go to our next one. Okay, this 16 across. This term refers to a color effect in which a single color goes from a very light value to a very dark value or a much darker value. What is that called, right? It's not called tie-dyeing, right? Because we know that that's different. That's usually lots of different colors. This word refers to one color going from a light value to a dark value. So I'm going to show you while you're typing your answers, I'm going to show you an example of that in fashion. This is a big thing in fashion. I'd love to see it. I'm going to give you the answer. It is, oh, Jessica, that's a great guess. Um, um, Gradient works, but yes, ombre is what I'm going for. Ombre is literally, in this case, like white to this sort of pomegranate color, but it has to be one shade. Otherwise, we're talking about dip dyeing. If you've got more than one color, even if it goes from light to dark, more than one color, in rug hooking language is dip dyeing, but ombre is the one color. Light to dark or swatch sets, right, where they cut them and they make distinct different pieces. This is what it looks like in fashion, going light to dark, and this is what it looks like in curtains, for example, sheers. Now, these are a little bit confusing to me because, for example, the second one from the left looks like it goes like yellow to blue, and that is not ombre. But maybe it's an off-white base, and then I guess that's acceptable. But it is a very light shade, one color going to a darker value. Simple as that. That's all it is. So, question number 17 across. This free substance is the most highly recommended, the most highly recommended thing for cleaning your hooked rug. It's something that's free, and it's what everyone says to use if you're cleaning your hooked rug. Let me get rid of ombre, and you tell me what this substance is. I think not for you, Gail, but I think most of us, logging on from across the US and Canada, yes, ice, snow, ice, exactly. Snow, ice, any of this works, right? So here's a picture. Well done. This is a good time, right? If you've got it outside, you might as well use it. And I recently posted some pictures in our Facebook group or videos of people doing this technique. And of course, the Facebook group is Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club. This is somebody who's out there in the snow. They have sprinkled some snow on top of the rug, and they are sweeping it with a broom. So they're catching the surface. Of course, with hooked things, the loops are quite tight up against each other. So you don't really have to worry too much about it getting in between the loops and soaking the bottom of it. You don't want to soak the bottom of it. You want to brush it just to kind of agitate and dust off the surface. Dirt didn't get between the loops, right? Unless you're a very loose hooker. It didn't get between the loops. It's sitting on the surface. So you brushing the surface like this is going to clean it up. Then take it and hang it upside down, right? Don't hang it right side up, because then whatever dampness is on it that you didn't get off gravity is going to help it soak through to your foundation, your backing. So hang it over the fence or over on something upside down. So gravity helps it stay in the loops and dry off, right? You get what I mean with that. You don't want the backing to get wet if it doesn't need to get wet. Here's somebody who's just got like a chunk of, I thought they had snow or ice or something. They might have a rag here. What do you think? Is that a piece of fabric? I'm seeing this very small. I looked and I thought that was a piece of ice. And now I'm looking and it looks like it's folded. So in any case, the answer is ice. If this indeed is a rag, I would say to this that you can dab a surface with a rag that is not soaked, right? Because again, this to me doesn't look like a handmade rug. This probably has that sort of monk's cloth cotton backing, or it might be a Priscilla Turner rug. And if you watched that series of shows that I did, you know what the Priscilla Turners are. They are handmade with a shuttle, but they do have backing on them. In fact, I've got one right here. Here, let me show you the Priscilla Turner right here. Now you're going to see a lot of crap on the floor because the dog plays with his toys down here, right? So this is, yeah, there you go. You see he's emptying Glammy out. This is a Priscilla Turner. And here's the tag for it right here still. Priscilla Turner. And they have, in most cases, glued the back, right, a little bit. So the rug they're showing you in the picture is going to work a little bit differently, and I'm sure that it's a Priscilla Turner. But in any case, if you are going to hit something with a sponge as opposed to ice, just make sure that you are not dripping wet, right? Because that you're going to soak the thing, and if it has like a vulnerable backing like burlap, it has potential to rot. So ice if you can, right? Snow and ice. Let's go to question number 18 across. This is the Vermont Museum that houses the Molly Nye Toby 50 states rugs, right? So Molly Toby of Barrington, Rhode Island, my hometown, she created a series of 50 hooked rugs that represented the 50 US states. And this museum in Vermont has them permanently in their collection. They were donated. So I know you know the answer. And it is, I'll put the thing up to give you another second. I'll put up the picture for that. Let's see, let's see. Hold on, I'm scrolling through. Oh, there we go. Right here. Yeah, right here. And the answer is Shelburne Museum. So Shelburne, Shelburne Museum has Molly Toby's 50 rugs. This is what part of it looks like. There's lots of parts to it. There's like carousel. I think there's cars there, things like that. And I made a reference to the rugs, so I want to show you a couple of them. It's very hard to find these online. They were in an article by Barbara Brown, one of the 2025 issues of Magpie Times, I think. Yes, Catherine, well done. I think this is Mississippi. You know that my view of the pictures is tiny. I don't have a full screen because I have a whole dashboard. I think that tag says Mississippi. Please tell me if I'm wrong. Oh, Dave, no snacks yet. Well, I know you're going to sit down with your cider and something delicious. Hang tight, hang in there, right? I think this is Mississippi, and all of these were very different. Some were squares, rectangles, circles. This is another one. This is out of focus, I'm sorry, but this is the only other one I could find. New York. And I thought this was a beautiful one because the different fields represent different things about New York. For example, in the center, very old-fashioned rug in the center, very traditional, right? Flowers, right? Very pastoral, very country. And then when you go out further, you see that there are the trappings of city life, right? Lots of people, taxis whizzing by, bus, airplane, all kinds of city life things. And then in the final, there's kinds of swirls, like a bit of a Van Gogh motif in the final border. But these are all absolutely gorgeous rugs in the collection. If you look them up, there's posters and stuff. I don't know if the Shelburne stocks them anymore, but what a beautiful collection of rugs. I remember at Ribbon Candy Hooking, one of our cocktail nights, one of our game nights, we played bingo one night. Yeah, it was a bingo night, and I had the bingo cage out that night, and it was Molly Toby's 50 rugs. That was the theme. So if you're interested in this subject, you can look back to that because I had the images of all of those rugs in that show, right? And the way that it's spelled is Molly, Nye, Toby, Tobey. But the answer to that question was Shelburne. Let's move on to number 19 across. The first chronicler of the history of hooked rugs and their designs, who wrote, type autocorrect, who wrote a trio, not a trip, who wrote a trio of books in the early 20th century. Do you know who I mean? I'm going to come over here and get you set up to look. There we go. The answer is, did I give you any kind of a clue? No, I just gave you the last name. The answer is Kent, Kent. His name was William Winthrop Kent. He wrote that sort of trilogy, they weren't chronological, of books, right? Of rug hooking, design and hooked rugs, The Hooked Rug. I forget what the other one was called, maybe Collecting Hooked Rugs. Beautiful, still important volumes. They look like this from the early 20th century. And don't get the wrong impression, they did not have color. There was one insert at the beginning that was like a fold out that would have color, but otherwise they were all black and white images. If you're interested in this subject, this of Kent, William Winthrop Kent, good job, Lori. There's lots of Ribbon Candy videos on this channel when we looked at Kent's books, many. So those are there for you too. That's the good thing about bingo night, isn't it? That we can refer back to so many other videos. So if you do have another snowy weekend this weekend, you can go down the rabbit hole. He is so dapper, right, Catherine? He was so upper class. And that is the voice, right? It's a different time, right? I try not to be too judgy, but the voice is very if I heard it now, I'd go, uh-oh, that was very condescending. But it was just, I think, the voice of that time and the voice of someone who was from the upper class and had spent his whole life in the best schools, traveling all over the world. But man, did he do a service to our craft, right? Collecting hooked rugs and compiling everything. Gail, oh, you have a lot of snow in high country, Victoria. I am so surprised to hear that. That's unbelievable. I can see my friends in Australia. I feel like they are on the southwest coast, celebrating their first 10 years together. And man, everywhere they go, it looks so sunny. It's like crazy. They're like drinking cocktails, and it looks so sunny. But in the high country, it's a different story, right? All right, so let's go to question number 20 across. This Scandinavian style of rug making involves a unique lined woven backing and features sewn rows of cut pile wool. Remember this? This is another video that's there for you. I went to meet in Maryland. I meant to meet like the person, right? The person whose family brought this craft from Scandinavia to the United States, like in the 1950s, and she is carrying the torch, right? She, Melinda Bird, right, of Bird Call Studio. That's Bird with a Y. I went to visit her, and I did a couple of very long videos with her where I show you how to do Rhea rug close-ups. You really get to see how to do it. Those are great videos. You should check those out. Absolutely right. Karen, New Moon, great job. Rhea, R-Y-A. Rhea rug looks completely different than a hooked rug, and in many cases, a Rhea rug is more collectible. We see this sort of resurgence of Rhea rugs in the 60s, 1960s, 1970s. I'm going to show you two at once here. And for that reason, we tend to see designs that were very popular at that time. Now, we know as soon as we get deep into the 70s that the latch hook market and shillcraft and, all of these sort of more economy brands, right? Again, I'm trying not to be too disparaging or sound judgmental, but a lot of these economy brands kind of took over the idea of Rhea rug making and turned it into latch hook. Different hook, right? And it was, Rhea is sewn, right, with a needle. They're both cut pile forms, obviously two very different backings. But Rhea rugs can look, they are always cut pile, right? Although you could leave them as loops if you wanted to. I've only seen them cut pile. Particularly the one on the left, I think maybe one of Melinda Bird's, it's a very high pile. So it looks very shaggy, right? The one on the right looks less shaggy, and you see kind of lines through it. That's not a bad quality photo. That is because the backing is a series of lines, and you don't do continuous fill like you do with rug hooking or latch hook. You stitch along the line, and then there's a long gap, like almost not an inch, maybe a half inch, and then you do the next line. So the lines, meaning rows, are staggered. And if your pile is cut lower rather than higher, like on the left, you do see those little rows showing up, line after line after line. You see what I mean? So it's a very different form. If you want to know whether you're looking at a Rhea rug, flip it over and you'll see the lines on the back of the backing. Many shows on Rhea rugs for you here on this channel as well. New Moon says, I would so love to make a genuine Rhea rug. But oof, that would be an investment. So it is a good point with the high pile, and the Rhea rug as it came out of Scandinavia is all wool. So a couple of things here. If you want to make it all wool, which is the traditional way, oh God, yes, that's going to be very expensive. But for example, depending on your pattern too, right? How much of one color you need. We were talking about sock yarn earlier. You could use sock yarn. It's the wool that Melinda, for example, uses is thin wool, and it's very high twist, so it's got a lot of energy to each strand. So it kind of does like boyoyoing off the surface, and it kind of stands up off the surface. So it's very shaggy. It would be a different effect if you used a different material, but you could use a different material. You could use sock yarn. You could dye your own. You could use cotton. You don't have to use wool. This is a sewing technique, so it's not like you could use like garbage bags or t-shirt material or things we might use for rug hooking. That wouldn't work. But there are other yarns that you could use just as a thought, or do maybe some of this and some of that to kind of offset the cost. One thing I would say to that, because it's a very good point, it's a very solid point, is that, if you spend time on eBay or Facebook Marketplace, the Persian wool that people used, like, what was it called? Paterna or something like that, that people use for needlepoint in the 60s, 70s, 50s, right? That wool is very similar. So sometimes you see huge lots of needlepoint wool that would work. The only thing I would say is that because it's pre-cut, you would have to anticipate it, and you'd stop your thread, watch the video of me doing it, right? But that would work. And sometimes you can get that Persian wool for needlepoint in huge bulk amounts because people aren't using it. And the people who are doing needlepoint maybe aren't doing as many vintage patterns. Like Ryan loves a good vintage pattern. And they're doing, contemporary kits, and they're shopping at the needlepoint store. So we're seeing a lot of those Persian wool kits end up in thrift stores and charity stores. Something to think about. Okay, let's move on to like crewel wool. Exactly. Yep, that would work. Thinner wool will work. Once you get the real wool, the thing about the real wool is it's so springy, right? It's so springy. It's twisty, and it's a little loosely spun. And that's what I mean by energy. The twist is so high that it wants to like stick out. You work it, you cut it, wants to stick straight out. So it gives it a specific look. But there are other materials that you could try. The thing about Rhea is also, now Karen did Rhea onto, Karen, it was linen backing, right? You used vintage Rhea supplies for a rug that you made, Karen Garvey. And you used a latch hook to latch the pre-cut Rhea rug supplies. And it was 100% wool, because for a hot minute, before latch hook took over, the pre-cut acrylic stuff took over and killed Rhea rug making in this country until Melinda brought it back literally 20 years later, more than that. Skipped a whole generation in our family. In that hot minute, the people first, latch hook companies first, tried to sell you a latch hook kit on latch hook backing with wool pre-cut circles, right, to fill the kit in. And then it was like, nope, cost too much money. And they almost immediately went to acrylic. So all of those things you might find online on eBay or whatever. Jessica says, I have a lot of thin Persian wool that I've gotten from a thrift store. It hasn't found a project yet. There you go. And usually Persian wool is plied. So if you want your rug for the individual strands to be thinner, then keep all the ply, whatever it is, 3-ply, 4-ply, whatever. But if you want to mix the ply and blend, this is something that's done with Rhea rug too. Time consuming, but still, for example, you could take like 3 strands of pink if you want in total 6 strands, 3 strands of pink, 3 strands of blue. You see a lot of that in the most valuable Rhea rugs. They've been blending the strands, right, and pre-cutting them so that each blast, each little stitch, once it's cut, has all of those colors in it. The more you look at Rhea rugs, the more you see these details, and so many reasons why they are so valuable. Part of it is scarcity, because latch hook took over so quickly. Part of it is materials, right, because people appreciate that they're all wool. Part of it is also just that mid-century 70s vintage retro stuff is so much more popular than, for example, Promogown rose rugs. Sorry, but in general, young people have money these days, right? Or at least they did a few years ago. And if they're going to buy stuff, they're probably not going to buy rose rug, hooked rugs. They're probably more inclined to buy stuff that looks 70s. It's just more fashionable right now, and that drives up the prices as well. Mixed ply is best, Karen says. I have a bunch of, okay, yep, I got those in the wrong order. Great. I'm so happy. That could solve problems, right? Okay, so let's go to number 22 across. This late 20th century graphic artist traded her Manhattan power job for a new career in hooked rug design on Nantucket off of Cape Cod. Who was she? I'm going to give you a clue. Let me get rid of these guys. And This is a person we've talked about a lot. I'm still hoping to visit her. She has been traveling a lot in the last couple of years and she has not been around, but I have spoken to her. We've had phone calls and I would love to get together. If this rings a bell, she still has one store on Cape Cod. It's in Barnstable on Route 6A, if you're familiar. No long, it's the one that used to be up further in like Brewster. That one's closed. All of the others are closed. There was one, I think, in there's definitely one on Nantucket. There was one on Martha's Vineyard. The only store, brick and mortar store left is the Barnstable. So that's something to think about. But having said that, um, only the one store left, but they have reintroduced the rug kits and the wool yarn. So that's something to think about too. So this, of course, is Claire Murray, one of my all-time favorites. And if you think, oh, Claire Murray, that's commercial rugs. No, it's not. She learned to rug hook from a neighbor on Nantucket, right? She completely gave up. Yes, great job, New Moon. She completely gave up her life and went to Nantucket and wanted to do something like this instead. Was intrigued by her neighbor who rug hooked, taught her, and she started hooking rugs. Her rugs she hooked as prototypes with a rug hook on her lap. She does not use a frame. She wraps it around her lap because all of her rugs are big. Her smallest rug is like a demi welcome mat kind of thing, right? She doesn't have any small wall pieces. They're all rugs. She hooked them, right? The fact that she became so popular and they were bought and they were reproduced and hooked abroad has nothing to do with the fact that she was a rug hooker and she created these designs. Get very defensive about her because I think she had an astonishing career, and I think women should hold other women up. She had a career in the 80s like men wished that they had, with this line of sort of decorative stuff that spilled over to mugs and textiles and clothing and all kinds of other stuff. So this is what her style looks like. Little Nantucket cottage with moss on it. A wreath of cabbage roses, very Claire Murray, little welcoming gate. She is such a nice person too. She is a lovely person to speak to. She has a lot of rare rugs out there. Now, this isn't in my top 100 Claire Murray rugs, but Raggedy Ann and Andy, right? Like this whole cast of characters, this is one of the more rare ones. So when you're, hitting antique stores and stuff, check and see if you're looking at a Claire Murray rug. I don't see her signature on this rug, but it is a Claire Murray. We know this is one of her designs. It might be a kit that somebody hooked, and then her initials would not be on it, right? If you bought the kit and hooked it yourself. But still, her rare patterns like this are valuable because we never see them. Now, whether the subject matter is appealing or not is a different problem, right? Jessica says, I will have to look up Claire Murray. I thought her designs were mostly traditional strawberries and flowers. No, lots of stuff, underwater stuff, lots and lots of mermaids, lots of village greens, from above, God's eye view of village greens, nautical boats, right? And everything to do with Nantucket. Tons of cottages with flowers, lots of animals. Some of our animal rugs are extremely rare. I showed one, I think, with a pig that I saw in Maine that I should have got, never seen it before or since, no examples of it online. Yeah, she had some really beautiful ones. I mean, she was a great designer. She was a very successful graphic designer. So the fact that she completely said, I had enough of the city, and she completely turned her life upside down and tried something new, I think was incredibly brave. And she had such a passion for what she did. And thankfully she was successful, right? Just such a talented, intrinsically talented person, right? So let me get rid of this image and let's move on to number 23 across. Oh, I'm sorry, number 23 across. This root makes a beautiful range of red colors in natural dyeing, right? Natural dyeing. What makes red? Name a plant that makes beautiful red colors. I'm going to show you some slides. I've got a couple of these for you. Now, there's more than one thing, of course. So matter. Yes, Karen, that's what I'm going for. And good thing you put it in there before I showed this slide. So this shows matter. Of course, depending on what your fiber is, it takes differently. Natural dyes or even like our wool dyes, right, for like silks and wools on, oh, I got to get the sweater off. It's going to kill me. On cotton, it's never a good thing, is it? It's never a good thing. It never works well. Cotton jersey, a little bit better. Silk dupioni. Silk dupioni is going to suck stuff in like a sponge, right? That's always going to be electric. Raw silk, right? Going into silk. color is very strong, going into silk, nylon, wool, of course, but cotton, not so much, right? No matter however the cotton is woven or knit, right? Beet was a good guess. You know, I think I'm right here. I don't want to say things that I think are stupid, but I think I'm right about this because this happened to me. There are a lot of things that are red, like beets, that stain so badly if they get on your clothes, right? I know this from eating beet salads and drinking wine in restaurants. If it gets on your clothes, it stains your clothes. But um, it doesn't, it's not color fast, right? A lot of particularly vegetables, they will stain your clothing, but they're not color fast. So it might be that it's always a little bit stained, but you will notice over time that the stain is likely to come out because it's not as strong as it looks, right? It looks so strong. You drop it, you spill it, it's like, oh my God, but it's not that color fast. So there's a lot of things that seem like, well, obviously you use that for dyeing that you can't use for dyeing, which is always a great mystery to me. That's why I'd like to get more into natural dyeing so I could learn more about what works and what doesn't work. Because it is not intuitive. I would have said beets would be the most obvious too. So just a couple pictures of matter with different things. And we will move on to, let's see, where were we? 24. I'm getting really hot now with this fire behind me. Um, Amaranth is also a beautiful natural dye that makes red. Ooh, how pretty. Let me Google that right now and I'll show. Let's see, amaranth um, dye. You know, it's almost time for fiber festivals again, at least in this part of the country. So I gotta check in with my friend Shay, who I go to festivals with. There's always natural dye stalls at them, and I always like to buy. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Natural dye with amaranth. Okay, rosemary and pines. Yeah, this is the example they're showing for amaranth. My lighting is probably off, but it's a beautiful, like kind of strawberry red that goes up to pink and super light pink. That is gorgeous. Very warm strawberry red. Oh, that's gorgeous. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I'm looking forward to those festivals opening up so I can hit those stalls again, right? All right, let's do, what is it? Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to leave you there. Let's do 24 across. Oh, this is a personal plug. Sorry about this. The name of the mouse character who is featured in the 2026 Ribbon Candy Hooking Mouse Hole Farm series. I'm going to show you her right here. Do you remember? Because I forgot, right? Diane, was it you who said to me, that's not her name? I forgot that I had named her and I had to switch it back all of a sudden. Um, this is the February kit. I drew out this is the January kit. Now the kits are sold out, but you can always get the patterns. And I think I'm going to offer the patterns in a larger size too. Just this was the January. Farewell, Sir Spruce. And the February was like a kit again. It's Margot, Margot, Margot Mouse, and her two dogs are called Laundry and Lint Ball. So I drew the third one out yesterday. I absolutely love it. It's like one of my favorite patterns I've ever done. So I'm going to hook that up in the next week, and then I'll put that out as a kit too. There's always a set amount because it uses like very a lot of textured wools and things I don't want to have to keep in stock, right? I don't have that big of a business going. I don't want to keep all that stuff in stock. But yes, the answer is Margot, Margot. And that, oh, wait a minute. I just showed you those two. I'll show you them here too so you get better color. I forgot I had put them in here. Let's see. Cochineal for red, but also buggy. Yeah, those red bug things, dyes are really good. My sister still uses those for paints when she does her painting stuff at Yale, her restoration. I'm still looking for my stupid slides here. Yeah, she still uses those beetle bug pigments because seriously, because they're the best and they match the original paint. She does Tudor painting restoration. She's the head of the department. Um, Yeah, so she's got those kinds of gross things laying around for sure. That's Margot Mouse 1 and 2. And you see how I got to fix my roof line on February. You see how there's a little jag in it, but they will connect, right? Because they connect 3 across for the entire 12 months. I'm really looking forward to next month. We will move on to number 25 across. This 1970s publication founded by Joan Moshimer and published by Cushing and Company later became known as Rug Cooking Magazine in 1989. What was that publication called before 1989 when it wasn't called Rug Cooking Magazine? Does anybody know? I have all the copies of this, and I really love this periodical. I'm going to show you some examples. It started out as black and white, um, very text heavy, right? It wasn't a picture magazine at that point, but it still had tons of good ideas. And if you are a great historian of the craft, then you like to have copies of things like this around. So you can look back at names and events. Let me bring you to, the magazine is called News and Views. Let me find some images for you. Here we go. News and Views. I'm going to show you 3 images at once on the screen going through the years here. No, Jessica, that is a great guess. The Rug Hooker, News and Views. So this is the predecessor to Rug Cooking Magazine, right? And again, this is the brainchild of Joan Moshimer. You're seeing some early ones on the left when it was all black and white, and you see they were pre-punched because they were meant to go into a binder. They were smaller than a magazine, right? So it's maybe like, I don't know, 50 pages, something like that, maybe less. But lots of articles jam-packed into one issue. And over on the right, you see a little bit later on when we get into the 80s, they're getting color and a color cover. So it's a fun thing to connect in if you follow the groups like, Rug Cooking Buy and Sell. I can't stand that group, but nonetheless, there's a lot of nice stuff that pop up and a lot of nice people in there. You can find stacks of these for nothing. If you belong to a guild, people often bring these and they just want to get rid of them. They don't want them. They've got doubles, they've got triples. They don't want them. And for us, it is so nice if you've got a place to put them and you want to put them on a bookshelf and look at them when you feel like it. What a lot of fun. What a nice piece of our history. You will find that there are names that you recognize and just great information in that periodical. Let's move on to number 29 across. Founded in 1969, this California dye works company is known for having an enormous selection of colors. In other words, and I'll give you a hint here, Cushing obviously has a ton of colors, right? I don't know who has more or who has left. Prochem has a lot of colors, but not as many as this California company that I'm thinking about. Let me show you what they look like here. Dharma. That's it, Karen. It is Dharma. Dharma. And let me find it for you. It was the first time when I looked this up yesterday. It was the first time that I saw what their store looked like. And I thought my heart started pounding. I haven't been to California for such a long time. I used to give tours out there. And as soon as you do something with work, it's kind of like you're done. But made me want to head out again because this just looks like such fun. You see the yarn in the window on the left there, all the different colors. And I like how it's called Grimm Building. Like it used to be something else, the Grimm Building, and now it's Dharma. It's just so cool. I bet there's lots of stuff. Well, there's lots of stuff in there for us. That goes without being said. Their dye pots are quite big. Now, when you open them, some are more full than others, and they cost different prices, just like any other. Oh, check out that right window. What was going on over there? Oh, wait a minute. I got to expand it. I want to see what's going on in that right window there. Look at that lucky person going into Dharma. Dharma trade. Oh, yep. Oh, what's going on there? Is it like they've got it boarded up kind of a thing? Huh. Oh, they have some clothes outside too. Yeah, so pretty. So pretty. Ryan, you are a hooker with yarn, right? So you're going crazy right now because those are your vintage colors too, aren't they? Those are like your 1970s colors. Such a lot of fun. So, every single color, diagonal wood. Oh, right, right, right. Oh my gosh, that's what you've been punching forever, right? That's what you've been punching forever. Oh my gosh, we got to get that piece on gallery night. We should do gallery night next week. Um, Karen says, fantastic collection of natural dyes. Karen, do they have natural dyes as well? I didn't even know. I did not even know. I always get their wool dyes, like their fiber reactive dyes, and I love them. I get the yellow and the blue series, right? They're slightly different, but they both work great. I love them because there's so many color choices. There's a few colors that are duds that I try to avoid. One of them is honey mustard. That one goes off really fast, and then it just does not exhaust. Sunflower also is another one that if you don't use it quickly, and it's a lot in the container. I mean, I do this for a living, right? I dye like, multiple times a week, and some of these I can't use up, and then they're like bad. I have to say, with Dharma, I love the brand, but I did have something with them early on where they sent me a color called Tangelo. It's obviously orange, and I wasn't paying attention, so partly my fault. And I put the dye into a giant like baby hip bath kind of a thing, and then I threw a ton of wool in it. It was bright purple. And my brain, when I'm moving like a machine, my brain didn't clock it. And I said to them, this container says Tangelo, but this is purple. And I thought they'd say, oh, I didn't expect them to say, we'll replace your wool or anything like that. I would never expect that. But I thought they'd say, we'll send you the correct Tangelo. And they were like, oh, did you use it? Well, yeah, I used it. That's how I knew it crapped up like, yards of wool. And they were like, oh, well, if you've used it, sorry. And that really made me angry. I ended up not using them for a while, but now I use them again because they do have some new colors out. I really do like their colors. I think they are my favorite just for variety. Some of my favorite colors are their colors. Some of their colors, olive brown is another one. It's a very weird color. So is shiitake mushroom. Um, they're kind of greenish browns and grays are very weird colors. They're shapeshifters. But I do love the brand. I've come to peace with them again after that very bad start. Um, I have those also, lots of interesting information. And these are some swatches that look like maybe these are cotton swatches. They look very thready, but colors are absolutely beautiful. So, yeah, Dharma, something to think about. Now we know they have the natural dyes as well, so we can be checking that out after the show, right? I'm real curious to look at their natural dyes. So, okay, let's move on to 30 across. Oh, wow, it's super late. This type of wool, this type of wool set maybe I should have said series, usually contains 6 to 8 values of the same color and is often used for fine shading. So in what situation, what would you call it if you had like a little set of the same color that goes light to dark, like ombre, but a piece of each one? What do you call one of those sets? Swatch. Yes, swatch set. So like a swatch watch, right? SWATCH. I know you probably all know that, but nonetheless, I think I put a swatch in here for you. Pretty swatch set that's done in like this is probably American Beauty Rose. That would be my guess. Maybe strawberry. I think this would be a Cushing set. So let's move on to well done, well done. Let's move on to oh, here we go. A 31 across. This small fruit is sometimes regarded as Magdalena Briner Eby's unofficial signature. Can you picture it? Sticking out of a bird's beak. She did this a lot because she did not sign her stuff, right? It was not to sell. It was not for collecting. It was for the family and for the floor. She did not sign her stuff, but she did this often enough that people tend to say, like appraisers um, and rug historians, if you see this and everything else fits, you're probably looking at a Magdalena. Let me show you an image of an example of one of these rugs. Of course, Magdalena is one of our early rug hookers dating back to the 19th century. I've done shows on her. I did a design like on her, whole design like class that's 2 hours long. That came out a few years ago. That's a composition class where you learn about a ton about her life. And you also make some fabulous compositions while you're at it. Did I not? Oh yeah, there it is. I just put the word, yes. What is a cherry? I like how you did that Jeopardy style phrasing. You are correct. What is a cherry? That is the answer. So, for example, I don't know if this is a reproduction or what. This came off a blog. I think Woodland Junction, I think, isn't it? Um, and it didn't immediately say. So I don't think it's an original Magdalena. It certainly doesn't look like it, but showing the cherry in the beak of the little bird, this is an original Magdalena. And you can see at the top of this animal totem, there is the blackbird who is holding the cherry. So yes, cherry is the right answer. Well done on that. We are almost done the acrosses. I really have to speed up. I am so naughty. Okay, so let's see. Okay. 32 across. This table rug style involves stacking graduated circles of wool and connecting them with decorative needle stitches. So it's done with a needle. It's not impossible to see this as a rug, a floor rug. Yes, Penny, good job. I have seen them as penny rugs, right? And I have seen variations like the lamb's tongue rugs or the pen wipers. But we typically see them as smaller rugs on the table. I think partly because of the high relief of the rug and the many ways that you could catch your foot and do a jack tripper on a rug like that. But I have seen them as floor rugs. Again, not unheard of, just uncommon. So let's look at what a penny rug looks like. I know you know, but let's look together. I found some really pretty penny rugs. Here's an antique one. This was on Live Auctioneers. You can see the diamond design in the center, and the stitch that we're seeing around the pennies is the blanket stitch, right? Or the buttonhole stitch. Those are the same stitch. So that's the stitch that we're seeing, and that tends to be the stitch that we see with wool applique in general, right? With very, very few exceptions. Sometimes we see a daisy stitch, but not very often. This is an antique. One of my favorite contemporary artists is Suzette Crummell. I've used her for things in my books, in Magpie Times. Personally, I care about her and her brand a lot. She is absolutely fabulous. She is like the penny rug person. You know, I feel, Jessica, like they're not durable. If you're going to do these graduated circles stacked up, the more circles you do, the less practical it will be on the floor. Because your foot, if you wear shoes, is going to, regardless, is going to catch on the circles. And I think that's the main reason we don't see them a lot on the floor. Catherine, it has been a while since I thought of you when I said it just then, because I know that you love it. It has been a while. Thank you for noticing. I wanted to show you this example of Suzette Crummell's rug. This is a contemporary one, and you can see she buttonhole stitched around the edge and around the edges of the pennies. Do you see how in the center of the penny she has used like upholstery fabric? You know how you find upholstery fabric like at Goodwill or at yard sales or whatever? You find it sometimes in books, and you have all this upholstery fabric, and it's so loose and woven that it's not good at all to use for rug, anything to do with rug hooking, maybe hooking into it, that's it. But if it's a sample book, it would be a super small piece, right? Well, this is a great thing to use it for. Pennies. Now, does it want to fray and give you a complete headache? Yes, it definitely does. So you want to shore up those edges quickly and fast with the buttonhole stitch. But it makes such a nice, no, me neither. It makes such a nice effect because you can tell that it's something different, right? So that's Suzette Crummell, and she even does stuff like this. Also Suzette Crummell. If you look up Suzette Crummell, that's Krummel. She's got this beautiful gallery with so many. This isn't a penny rug, right? This is a wool applique rug. Lots of people would call this a penny rug, but penny rug really has to have the circles that are penny shaped, right? Because the reason it's called a penny rug is because during the Civil War period, when this rug form began, coins, pennies, were so big. They were bigger than modern quarters. And people would trace around them to make the pattern piece. And that's why it's called a penny rug. And then people would start stacking smaller ones, cut the scraps after they cut the pennies, make smaller ones, and then even yet smaller ones, and stack all these pennies up. But that is what a penny rug is. This is officially a wool applique rug, but a lot of people would classify it as a penny rug. The lamb's tongues you're seeing around the edge are what were called pen wipers, and you would use these like before the ballpoint pen was invented, when you would be using a fountain pen, and it would poop itself once in a while and you need to wipe it, you would wipe it on a pen wiper. And when the pen wiper got too dirty, the little woman around you, because it wouldn't be you if you were a man writing with a fountain pen, would remove that pen wiper, clean it, and sew it back on, like replace it, right? Interesting, right? Yeah, test. Paula, are you saying that was a test question? Or are you going to give us a test question? I'll have to see. I love all the different directions that these conversations go because so many different things come out. One more question in the across category. Number 33. This adorable South, and that doesn't mean that it's small. This adorable South American animal is popular to keep for its high quality wool. We see this a lot lately. I see this when I go to Quechee, Vermont. There they are. I see this when I cross the line into Rhode Island to head into Newport. There's a farm and a yarn store there that has them there. Who am I talking about? Yes, the alpaca. Someone so cute. Let's look at that little face. Man, I would love to have these animals, but if I did, well, first of all, I'd never have them when the kids are at this age, when we're still living in Bedlam. But and I wouldn't want to have them when I like to travel so much on the weekend and take road trips on the weekend. But if my life were different, man, I would love to have these animals and goats and sheep and all kinds of characters in the yard here. Such little sweethearts, right? Well, alpaca. Now we are ready to go to our downs, right? And if you did this as a crossword, isn't it fun when you switch to down and you've got some clues in there already, particularly if someone hasn't misspelled Chetty Camp, right? So number 1 down, here comes the clue. This style of rug making punch, right? This style of rug making punching it's a tool, has 2 wooden plates that glide looks like I'm milking a cow, right? So maybe I won't do that. Glide alternately to walk the tip of the punch into the next loop site. You see what I mean? It's like it's a tool and it's got 2 wooden parts that shift like this. You have to do it standing up. Shuttle. There we go. You got it. Shuttle. It is a shuttle. And it was still called rug hooking, even though people were using what was called it was a rug maker, right? It was a shuttle rug maker. It went through lots of evolutions of different names over the years. And then as people patented them, like the blue nose, it became the blue nose tool, right? We weren't saying shuttle. We weren't even saying rug hooking. So everyone who made a specific copyright. There were lots of versions of the shuttle. That's why there's so many out there. If you collect them, they all look like little monsters. It is a fun thing to collect. They're quite pretty and they're very tactile. But somebody asked me this week, would you use it to make a rug? And my answer was, I mean, hey, if you're Hercules, for me, I don't enjoy using them personally. I feel it's way too much upper body strength, way too much repetitive. Sorry, I'm looking for it here in the slideshow and I'm struggling to find it, as you can see. I'm wondering if I wrote something stupid. Hold on while I find it. Did I not put one in? You know what? I don't think I put one in. Let me show you one off my phone. I know you know what it looks like. My choice would be to not use it. I've tried to use it in videos and things like that to demonstrate it. It's very heavy going upper body stuff. It wouldn't be my choice. You also have to do it standing and working down on something, right? So it can't be something tipped. Oh, shuttle. Well, I got the space shuttle, of course, didn't I? Now it's directing me to Cape Canaveral. Okay, wait a minute. Rug shuttle, rug making shuttle. Seriously, it was giving me the GPS to Cape Canaveral. So they look like this. These are a little bit dark, right? And they have 2 plates that move. And you look at anybody's name, Ebenezer Ross, right? Maybe had the first one. Hard to say who had the first one. I know even though they're copyrighted, it doesn't mean much. It could have been used before the copyright came through. It's hard to know, but they're all a little bit different. And 2 things are for sure. If you're going to use this tool, 2 things are for sure. You're going to get an incredible workout, right? And that's putting it mildly. And the second thing that's for sure is it's going to make a dang big hole in your backing because those are really big tips. So make sure that you mean it when you do it because you're going to have to do this with your finger and fix your backing foundation because it makes a really big hole, right? Not necessarily rips a hole through the thing, through the material, but it leaves a big hole, right? Because it's a very big tool. I just thought of something else I was going to tell you on that subject. can't think of what it was, but in my opinion, it's very difficult to use. So, and Ryan, you agree with that, right? Because you like, is it the Phoenix that you like? Which is the one, Ryan, that you like so much? Um, they all are good. They're all good for different things, right? This is what I was going to say. When you use this kind of a tool, you have to be thoughtful because directional hooking will show. You're hooking with yarn, right? I think you must be hooking with yarn for this. It's continuous, but the directional hooking is really a thing. You have to have just the right gap, just like with traditional Oxford style punch. You have to have the right size gap in between. Otherwise, you're going to pop out previous loops, and it's like Goldilocks again. You don't want to be too far, but you don't want to be too close because then you're going to pop out other loops. Same with punch, but this goes pretty fast, right? And I just did that motion again. I can see myself doing it. It just doesn't look right. It's you know what, if you see one at an antique store, they typically sell for around $15 in this part of the country, 15 to 18. If you see one and you think, you know what, I just would like to have that around. That's a nice thing. I'd like to give it a try. You should get it. You should give it a try. But yeah, it's an aggressive tool for sure. Ryan says rug crafters. Ventex is the Canadian version. Ventex is the Canadian version. So you love the rug crafters. Which is a great tip because Ryan does so much in such large pieces and loves to use the vintage tool, the vintage yarn and the vintage tools. Awesome. Thank you for that. That's really helpful. Okay, we'll go to 200 loops a minute on a straightaway. That is like, what was her name? Elizabeth Lafore, the Canadian hooker, right? That's like in Elizabeth's league. That is fast. But because you do pieces that are so big, it's still going to take forever, isn't it? Your pieces are masterpieces. They are masterpieces. They blow everybody's mind. You must have some biceps. Absolutely. I mean, I felt when I tried that shuttle thing, I felt like, my abs, I felt every part of my body, my throat, my face, my earring holes, everything like started to hurt immediately. All right, let's move to, oh, wait a minute, still here. Let's move to number 2 down. This form of wool is, okay, so picture how wool comes. This form of wool is long, carded, but unspun, and can resemble soft, fluffy rope. Picture yourself at a fiber festival. What are you looking at? It's long, right? It's wrapped up in a skein or tied into some kind of a knot. Looks almost like a skein. What is it? Roving. Yes, Karen, it is roving. So let's look at what roving looks like. It is not the same as yarn. It is not the same as bat, right? Bat is not yet roving. Bat is usually carded, meaning brushed, but it is not further refined. No, New Moon, I was trying to get you with bats, so I'm glad that you went for it because I wanted to be able to mention bats as well. Hold on, I'm going to find the roving. There it is. Roving looks like this. So beautiful. And of course, it's so beautiful to dye roving, just like dyeing yarn, right? You get lots of, you don't have to dye it colorful. You could dye it solid. And that's often what we see. But getting into this whole world of getting wool, putting it, carding it yourself or putting it on one of the boards where you're brushing it, turning it into a piece like a wool bat, which is like a flat piece. That's what I use so much when I hook. And then you decide what you want to do with it next, what form you want it to take. If you want it to be yarn, if you want to drop, I'm going to hold that. I'm going to hold that for a future question. It's up to you how you want to refine it after that. So, yeah, the only thing about roving that I will say, because I use roving and I use bat a lot, more bat than roving, because it's very inexpensive and I buy a lot of it and I love the color. The color is the same as with wool cloth or wool yarn, right? I like finding it because it's like cotton candy and I can pull pieces off and hook with it. Same thing with roving. I can pull pieces like cotton candy and hook with it. Hooks very fast. It's very easy on my hands. The one thing I would say about wool bat and wool roving is that if it's super brushed, you're going to have less of a problem with pilling, right? Because they do sell roving and yarn that isn't brushed very well, right? And it's already a little bit pilly when you take it home from the fiber festival. So you want to think about that. Those kinds of materials are not great for the floor because you brushing it with your feet or your socks or whatever, it is going to make it pill, right? Using wool, bat, and roving, in my opinion, is best for the wall. You don't want to store it eternally with stuff rubbing it and touching it. You want to make it, and then you want to put it up, and it looks perfect. But you start adding friction to it, and you might have a problem with pills. It's not a given, but you might. It is something to think about. It's still bat and silk stockings are still my two favorite things to hook with above everything. I would rather hook with those two things than wool strips or yarn. So each to his own, right? But roving is combed, bats are carded. Roving, Lori, roving is combed, bats are carded. Okay, I see what you mean. And carding would include the board, right? That would include the board that you comb onto. That's still carded, right? Thank you for that. Thank you for that clarification. That helps a lot. It's nice to think about how I don't do these refining things, right? I just buy it like I'll buy the bat or I'll buy the roving the way that it is, and I come home and I use it. I hope that one day I have a bit more time and I can get involved in the process going all the way back to the sheep, right? That would be fun. But roving is combed. But okay, yep. Lori, I'm gonna see if you write something else because I'm just trying to picture because I have that combing board. I haven't used it yet, but I've had it for a few years. I'm curious if that's a bat thing or if that's a roving thing. And I suppose it could be both, right? For people who do needle punch, they use that board too, don't they? To comb on. What's that thing called? Is it called a combing board? Yes. Okay, good. What is it called? It has a special name, doesn't it? And it usually comes with the brush thing that looks like the dog's brush. And it usually comes with Lori, stay with me. That like a dowel, right? So you can roll it off and roll it into a dowel. What are those things called at the Fiber Festival? I almost said ruminant. No, roulard, roul. What are those things called? I've been seeing them lately. Not that popular. Not as popular as roving or bat, but they're like the circle after you roll the wool onto the dowel, and then they turn it. Almost looks like a hairstyle, like a wig, into these curls. Rolag, yes, rolag. Thank you. I've been seeing those at fiber festivals lately too. And Lori, that's the same thing, right? That's just something that's been on the board, like the pin board, and rolled off, right? That's what a rolag is. Nothing else happening, but they rolled it. I've seen some of those on Etsy as well. Rolags. You all are so good. Thank you. All right, let me get rid of this and we're going to keep going. Okay, so let's move to, okay. Yeah, this is another shameless plug. Sorry about this. This number 3 down. This publication is the newest in the rug hooking market and features a cross section of fiber arts, regular features, and plenty of free patterns. What magazine is it? Well, it's the magazine sorry, I wasn't with you for that question. It's the magazine that I published with my partner, Judy Taylor, in Washington. Do you remember when I first got this idea and I got in touch with Judy? Thank you, Karen. And I said, will you do this thing with me? Because she does rug hooking daily. And I knew she was the right person to be my partner. And she was the right person to be my partner. I am loving this magazine. Let me show you the newest issue. I know it's here. Hang tight for a second. Once my husband put all these into the crossword puzzle, it changed the order. That's why it's different for me now. And because I had that doctor's appointment today, like across the state, I didn't have time to go back in. So this is what the brand new issue of Magpie Times looks like. Congratulations to Karen Garvey and Kirsten Gay for the design on the cover. And Karen, do you remember what the title of the cover is? And congratulations to Jessica Troyer. And Karen is on and Jessica is on, who hooked this piece. It is absolutely gorgeous. And the theme is garden party for this issue. This is a quarterly magazine. It's available through the Ribbon Candy Hooking Store, but also on Amazon. I know how we all feel about Amazon, but that's where it's published and that's where people can get it in Canada, in Europe. You go to your local one and then you don't have to pay crazy shipping. This is the way I can do this so that it can reach people literally all over the world. It came out the day before yesterday. And so I ordered my author's copies, but they usually take 2 weeks to come. So a lot of you are ordering directly from Amazon, which I also love, right? Because they give me a fraction, but still I love it and I'll take it. and it helps the algorithm for this magazine make its way to the top. So I do love it when you shop on Amazon. If you want a signed copy, you can get it from me, but it does take a couple of weeks because I order a large quantity for my author's copy. So there it is for you on this one literally just came out. It's there for you on your Amazon, whatever country you're watching from. And it is a great issue. It's typically 80 pages or just over 80 pages, free patterns, all kinds of stuff. Now, hey, listen, I'm gonna start. It is now that we've got this one out, it's time to start thinking about the summer issue. What are you going to send in for the summer issue of Magpie? The theme is flight. So the theme could be birds, kites, hot air balloons, anything, right? With a subtle patriotic theme, because of course we're looking at the 250th anniversary of our independence in the U.S., not necessarily in a patriotic way, in a way to say, hey, didn't they do great in 1776, right? So it's kind of got that split interest for summer. If you have anything with the flight theme, with the summer theme, if you have an article to write, large or small, please let me know. We want it in there. We want your work in there, right? Think about what you might put into the summer issue. Karen says, this is Annie Alpaca and her daughters. You will see her all year. Ooh, that's a teaser, is it? Ooh, that's a spoiler. Oh, I like that. Well, I love Annie and her daughters. She's absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to see more of her absolutely beautiful cover. So let's see. We are down to number 5. This is the city where ATHA will host its 2026 convention. Do you remember? It's coming up. We need to think about this. So it's coming up later this year. What is the city? I'm going to find it for you here. Yes, good job, Karen. Salt Lake City. I know I put something in here. I don't know if I'm going to go. It really depends on how that part of the year is shaken out for me. Salt Lake City. I used to bring tours here too, like so many times. It was crazy. For a Western tour I used to give years ago, where I started in Rapid City, South Dakota, and ended up in Salt Lake. And then I would either fly back to Rapid City, or if I had the same bus driver, I would forfeit my flight and just drive back. And that was fun too, because we got to stop in different places. So Salt Lake City is a beautiful city. I mean, I remember bringing people obviously to the Mormon Tabernacle for tours, and it's such a beautiful building. I mean, hey, listen, it doesn't matter. It's not about religion, is it? It's like if you went to Rome, you'd probably visit Vatican City, wouldn't you? Same thing here. Absolutely beautiful, lovely people, tons of restaurants, crazy amount of comedy clubs. I know that from my flights getting canceled and being stuck. Going out to lots of comedy clubs, lots of beautiful jewelry and clothing. There's a mall in the center of town. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous city. So Salt Lake City is the right answer. I'm not sure if I'm going to go there and Sauter. We'll see how it goes. But I'm not ruling it out. Number 6 down. This is another episode, or we did a few episodes a few years ago on ribbon candy hooking that refers to the answer. This type of Hawaiian quilt functions as a balanced and symmetrical 4-sided design. So in other words, it's a piece of paper. You fold it this way. You fold it this way. You put your design here. You transfer it to all 4 designs, and it's the same, all 4 corners. What is that called? Do you remember? It's a tough word because it's a Hawaiian word. I'm going to show you an example here. The answer is tiveve, and that is spelled Tivaevae. And I'm going to spell that again if you're filling in your crossword. Tivaevae, tiveve. Absolutely beautiful and inspirational style of quilt making that would transfer without very much difficulty to rug making, right? If you are a person who likes symmetrical design, primitive design, you're making a floor rug, it's an interesting thought to look into the history of tiveves, because this can give you some really great and easy, I'm recording a show, design ideas. Tiveve. That was a hard one. I gave you some harder ones and some easier ones, right? Okay, so let's go to number 7 down. This tool uses gravity to refine wool into yardage, right? Meaning yarn. I almost said it earlier and I stopped myself. This tool, so we've got wool and we're trying to turn it into yarn. We're trying to give it twist and we're trying to create an even or nubby, right? It doesn't have to be even. It could be nubby, like sort of novelty stuff. Um, what is that tool? Yes, drop spindle. Well done, drop spindle. And I have a picture of a drop spindle, and I know you know what it looks like, but let's just look anyway. So beautiful, right? And this is another thing. I have many drop spindles, but I've yet to use them. I keep meaning to. I've also got books on drop spindles. I know a lot of people use the electric spindle thing that where you can 3D print like the I don't know what you'd call them, bobbins or whatever. I know people spin that way, and it's a preference thing, isn't it? And this is, I'm not sure who this lovely lady is off Pinterest, but she's showing us how it's done. This is how you do it, baby. So, and seeing people do this in practice at fiber festivals, and you always do, is such a lot of fun. And and the thing that I always notice is that the trick is to get it even. If you mean for it to be even and for the twist to be even, right? Again, it doesn't have to be. It can be like a wild and crazy fiber. But if you mean for it to be even, it's all about tension, pulling the right amount, right? A good equal amount. Um, the next fiber festival you go to, you're going to see someone doing this, and if you haven't done it yet, you're going to think, okay, I get it. It's a you have to get a feel for it thing, right? Um, looks like such a lot of fun. I really hope that this is the year that I have. Oh, look at the fire went out. No, don't do it though, because I was dying of the heat. It's getting warm in here already. Okay, so let's go to our next question. We are at up on the top, 11 down. This 20th century American, I'm sorry, typo, photographer, not photograph, photographer, was famous for his landscapes, but he also took a lot of interior photos that featured braided rugs, all made by his wife. Who am I talking about here? I'm going to show you some of his work. Oh, we still got Drop Spindle Woman. Let's see. By Drop Spindle Woman, you helped us. You helped us a lot. Let's see. Where is he? This one was a little bit tough, but I have talked about him a lot on the show, so I thought you might know. These are examples. The answer is Wallace Nutting, Nutting. Let me see, did I put Wallace Nutting or did I just put Nutting? No, I put both. 11 down, Wallace Nutting. So I found out the other day when I was at an event, and Mary Ragnow of Vermont was the speaker. She was over Zoom, but she was the speaker, and she did this beautiful presentation about Wallace Nutting. And the whole sort of substance of it was about how his wife made all these beautiful braided rugs. He never mentioned it. Right? He never mentioned it. It is what it is. She also made some hooked rugs, but mostly braided rugs. She made all of these, and they used them for props to do their kind of pseudo or retro colonialist photographs in their own houses, right? They bought houses. They made a fortune doing this. It's such an interesting subject. I'm hoping that Mary Ragnow will do something for us at Tigger or before the Tigger event, like online, and give us this talk, because honestly, this is like one of the best talks I've ever heard. I already was in love with Wallace Nutting, and I always look for Wallace Nutting images to see if there's something I haven't seen yet. So this talk really like put it over the top for me. My interest really piqued. She said that this rug, now this is a very curious braided rug here. I'm sorry the quality of the photo is so bad, but it was the only one I could find. This is one that she's still chasing because she feels there must be references to it in other places. It's such an unusual braided rug. It has 3 circle rugs in it, right? And then all of these revolutions are, I'm not sure what the right word is because I do multi-strand braiding. But she's been looking for this rug, and she's been trying to research it further, and she's hit a lot of walls. So this is one of her pet projects, is trying to figure out, did Mrs. Nutting make this rug? What happened to this rug? Right, because it wasn't that long ago. This was like in the 1920s. So let's move on to number 12 down. This style of rug hooking, still rug hooking, involves a long crochet hook tool. So the tool is not a rug hook, right? But it's still hooking. So it involves a long crochet hook tool with an oversized eye at the other end, like a hole, like a sewing needle hole. What is this craft? It is a style of hooking. I'm going to show you the tool, and you tell me what what this craft is called. And this one, good thing she has her thing on it because we know who this is from. Nastasia. This is locker hooking. So this is the tool. You can't see, it looks like a crochet hook here, but it does have an eye. Yes, well done. It does have an eye on the end where that big fingernail is, right? The thing about this craft is she's not actually doing it right now. Um, you drag through the loops, right? You use the crochet hook to create a loop. And again, this she doesn't have an active thread attached to this, but you put the piece of yarn through the eye, so it's like a sewing needle. It's threaded up, and then you create a new loop and you pull through like a tunnel with a crochet hook, and it drags the string under it, right? The piece of yarn that's connected, it drags it under it, locks it in place. So in other words, maybe you can see it here a little bit better. You don't have to use the same material. You could use a different material to drag through and do the tunneling, right? She's using a thinner thread here, but she's tunneling through the loops. So there's like a worm going through the tunnel of loops, and it makes it impossible for the loops to pull out. Now, we know as rug hookers that loops don't pull out, right? But I think locker hooking happened somewhere in the early 20th century, and I think the reason that it still exists is because it is for people who want to do this craft like this tool, right? Are happy with this tool, and like to use the latch hook backing, the more open gauge backing. Sharon says, I just tried locker hooking. It was fun. I made a small trivet. So it is fun, and it does go pretty fast. You can use lots of different materials. This is obviously like quilt cotton here, maybe like batik or something. Really, really pretty. Um, my experience with doing it was that unless you are very experienced, and a chapter of my first book was devoted to locker hooking because they required me to do a chapter on it. And I was happy to do a chapter on it. I felt like for a beginner, it's limited, right? And I was a beginner because I don't do it. And honestly, I didn't enjoy it that much. But I felt like in terms of movement and what you can do, it can be elaborate, but it takes a lot more to get it to be elaborate. You're best off doing locker hooking, shooting straight lines that go as far as they can, or doing squares where you can do a continuous line and make corners. But if you think you're going to do like a paint by number face or a landscape, it's going to be hard with locker hooking. It is fun though. It is different and it's fun, something different. It's worth knowing what that tool is and what that craft looks like. Because it's confusing when you see it and you have no familiarity with it and you're like, what's that, right? Locker hooking. Okay, so let's go to number 13 down. The backing fabric cloth that a rug hooking design is worked on is called what? Now I have said this word many times in this episode. Sometimes we call it backing, but it has a more specific name. What do we call, whether you use burlap or rug warp or linen or monk's cloth? What is the backing fabric? Oh, good to see you. Peace and blessings to you too. Foundation. That's it. That's what I'm going for. Cecile, great to see you. Foundation fabric. It's an official word, right, for our special backings that we can use that are all wovens. That's the reason that we can put loops through. So, for example, this is an image from Door Mill, and it's a bolt of linen. So, it's, all the foundation. We're not going to have a conversation on foundation fabrics, but they're all great, and I feel that they're good for different things, right, at different times. And then you also have to layer on top of that your personal preference, right? But it also depends on how wide you're hooking, what tool you're using. All of that does matter to your success. And choosing your backing fabric really has to be a reflection of those things. How thick is my piece, right? How large is my piece? All of that stuff. We have other episodes about that, don't we? So, okay, let's go to number 14. This is a scrappy style of rug hooking that in England is called, or used to be called, mizzy mazzy. We call it something different in the US. And I know you know this phrase. I will show you an example of it. Let's see. Now, hang on. I'm concentrating because I know I put an example of it here. Hit or miss. Thank you. Yes, hit or miss is the answer. Hitormiss. Here we go. Hit or miss. So this is a beautiful example of a large antique hit or miss rug. And it's hit or miss in a few different ways because the checkerboard is still hit or miss. Yes, there is a color plan, right? There is a subtle color plan. You can see it. It almost looks like um, these around the world quilt, right? With the postage stamp blocks, right, at specific places. It is a color plan, but that is a form of hit or miss, right? Because we're using lots of little pieces, lots of small amounts. But around the border, right, it has a tipped square in the center. We are seeing more hit or miss done in more neutral colors, right? The colors of work clothing, browns, blacks, later colors, sort of dirty colors, all that brown palette. So that's hit or miss as well. We're seeing two different kinds of hit or miss on this hit or miss rug. Okay, here we go. Okay, number 15 down. Grenfell mats are distinctive looking partly because of the unusual material that was used to make them. What is it? What was used to make Grenfell rugs? I know you know. Let me bring one up to you and give you a second to think about that. Oh, I have a couple pictures of Grenfell rugs here. Now, this is another Canadian style. Yes, Karen, silk stockings. So well done. Pantyhose, right? They gave the shout out for people of the upper classes. Give us your stockings. Give us your dirty stockings. We're going to dye them and hook with them. And yes, that's what Grenfell is known for. Its designs, right? It was a medical mission initially, but yes, hooking with pantyhose, hooking with stockings. So this is an example of a Grenfell with a black border, always about the same width. This is certainly a Grenfell subject. Ice flows with polar bears and a little iceberg in the distance, right? Always different colors. They did a lot of dyeing with the stockings. And looking at one closer up, you see it is more related to Chetty Camp than other forms of rug hooking, right? It's full-size rug hooking with a full-size hook. It's not the itty bitty, and we are using cut up stockings, but it still is on a smaller scale. The loops are much smaller and tidier than they would be with, for example, modern contemporary Canadian Dion Fitzpatrick style, wild and woolly, right? Like wild, thick wool. This is very contained. This is very technical hooking. And you're seeing this from the back. So you're seeing the pantyhose from the back. It's always nice when the pantyhose already have colors like nude or whatever, then they don't have to be dyed. And of course, when you see this label, you know you're looking at something authentic. You can't count on something being Grenfell authentic without seeing that label on it. We are making some progress now. Number 21 down. This rug making tool is often fashioned out of an antler or a found branch off a hardwood tree. Mary, I'm thinking of you and the article that you put into the recent Magpie, the most recent one, and also you telling us about it on one of the past gallery nights. What rug making tool um, um, would you be holding if what would yes a prodder so the answer is proddy. Now that's the American, right? Because for the Brits it's proggy, but I'm American, so I said proddy, Proddy. Oh, Catherine says don't hook with Queen Victoria stockings because they are very valuable. Honest. um, I heard that. That's so funny. I heard that. I forgot about that. I feel like we talked about that so long ago. I forgot about that. Something to think about, right? Chrissy asked me the other day, she couldn't find the stockings on my website. It's because Hanes doesn't do that deal anymore. Hanes used to, when I stocked stockings and I did like a recorded class on dyeing stockings, Hanes used to do like a big, like it was like a refrigerator box size of stockings for like not that much. I mean, it really wasn't that much for all those stockings. They were all singles and I think they were mostly singles at least, and they were all imperfect, but it didn't matter for us as hookers, right? So I was able to sell those for like nothing, like a huge amount, like 20 or 50 in a bag for like a stupid amount, very low amount of money. And I can't do that anymore because that branch of Hanes, I think it was in Indiana, closed. And as far as I know, Hanes has not picked up the program where they do something with their rejects, right? With their like imperfects, which I think is really a bummer and a bit irresponsible because they exist and they're all over the floor and they're getting thrown out. So it has become harder for me. I haven't been able to stock them because I have not been able to find a source where I wouldn't have to charge you a fortune for them because they cost a fortune. I loved buying those. I know, me too, Rita, and you sent me some. You were so sweet. You sent me some. So I have my personal stash. But now I get them on either Temu, and I know how you feel about Temu. A lot of Temu stuff is in the US now, right? It's not coming from abroad because of tariff stuff and all that. It's already in the US. And bad news, the Amazon stuff is the same stuff as Temu, right? So at this moment, I have a bunch of things in my Amazon cart that are pantyhose that are like $4 each. That's a lot compared to what they used to cost. That's a lot. But you know what? They might already be the right color. Check your dollar stores and things like that too for pantyhose. And obviously, thrift stores, they're often in the package because the problem is people just don't wear pantyhose anymore. Like, that's the problem. People don't go to the office and wear legs, eggs, right? People don't do that anymore. So that's a problem for us as rug hookers, isn't it? That's a really big problem, actually. Okay, so let's move on to number 21 down. This rug, oh no, I'm sorry, number 26 down. Like indigo, this yellow flowered plant dyes a surprising natural blue color. It's not indigo. What's another plant that flowers yellow that you would go, well, that makes yellow? Obviously, it doesn't. Karen, you're right. It's woad. 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 Let me show you what that looks like. It's another one you see all the time at the fiber festivals. A beautiful blue, a little bit different than indigo. If you're getting into natural dyeing and you're thinking, do I need woad and indigo? I think they're different enough that you could. Indigo is such an inky blue. Woad definitely does a different color. So that's what the plant looks like, and that's what something colored looks like. More of like, I don't know, like a light navy. Um, yeah, the indigo just has more of like a inky base. Do you know what I mean? Like a true navy base. And even when it's lighter, it still has like that. It's like light navy, whereas this can give you kind of denim colors. So, of course, it depends on the material you're putting it on. It depends on if you're trying to satin it or gladden it with iron or what. It depends on what you're doing with it beyond just dyeing it, right? Natural dyeing is its own beast. All right, moving to number 27 down. This historic style of quilt this is a tough one. This is a quilter's question. This historic style of quilt was often constructed in a B setting, in other words, doing it together, and included signed blocks contributed by all the participants. In other words, you make your block, you come to the B, and you attach them all together. Or alternately, you exchange them at the B, or alternately, you make the quilt in a B with other people, and then you sign a block. But what are these quilts called? There's more than one name for them. Um, it's not signature. I'll give you a hint because sometimes they are called signature. Let me show you an example because they go way back to the early Victorian period, at least. Let me see if I can find one of these for you right here. This is a contemporary one. So this would be done at a contemporary guild. It's not just signed, it's dated. It looks like maybe there's a quote or something. Autograph. Yes, it is autograph quilt. Perfect. We've done a lot of episodes on quilting too, remember? So that was what was that, number 27? Yeah, perfect. And we talked about autograph quilts a lot and traditional block squares. There's so much for you in this channel in the past. This is one of the things we talked about a lot. Marcy from Windy, Ohio, joining very late. Marcy, I'm so happy to have you. Spring Magpie is arriving tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to the upcoming Rose book. Oh, thank you, Marcy. Me too. I finished, so that's the next book that's coming out, the Rose book. And then later in the summer, probably July, August, hopefully July, Spilling the Tea. So there, and possibly, if I can really move, the second Halloween book in October, The Mystic Carpet, which will follow up The Haunted Rug. But first is the Rose book. And the other day, I think it was Monday, I finished the last chapters for it. So, which doesn't mean that it's completely done. My husband's like probably right now putting it into pages, and then we work together and we look at it again. And my mother painted, because I didn't have rights to all the photographs to show you the photographs of the roses for this. It's a compilation book. There's 75 roses in it. I didn't have the rights to those photos. And if I start writing people, they're never going to answer me like, before the earth warms and cools again. So my mother just did a watercolor of each one. So we'll put those in too. And then I need to see if any of the chapters have big wide open spaces, because I also have collected like out of copyright poems about roses, or um, sayings, or blurbs from makers, and I can kind of fit those into the book too. But we are really close at this point. Thank you so much. I'm really excited. It's a beautiful book. And of course, that exhibit is still up in Hartford. That'll be up until April 1st when I take it down. Super fun. So autograph quilt, well done. Let me show you the contemporary one is super pretty, of course, and it means a lot to the people in that guild. Dawn, great to see you. Is there a pre-order for the book? No, not yet. And you know what? I'm going to be honest. I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to do the pre-order for the book. Because if I do the pre-order for the book, I'm not kidding. I'm not a business person. I'm going to forget that money is earmarked to send people the book, and I'm going to get myself in all kinds of trouble with money. I'm going to go, oh, look, I mean, I spend my money on my kids and supplies, right? I mean, look at me. But I will spend it by accident. So I'm just going to wait till we're a little bit closer, and then I'll put the pre-order out. Thank you for asking. It's very soon. So this is an earlier example of an autograph quilt that is an applique quilt, right? So this is a little bit unusual. This says to me, it gives me a clue as to the way that it was made. It says to me, these were probably appliqued on and some of them tied in a bee situation, and people, it looks like they stitched. I mean, I can't see it as well as you can, but it looks like they stitched their name onto this one. So cute. And I think I have one more to show you that is my favorite yet. And then we have one more question. Yeah, I mean, look at this example. I think that says 1847. Is that right? May something 1847. I'm never going to be able to read something. But obviously, this is like a mid-19th century quilt block made with these beautiful I was going to say Civil War fabrics, but it's not even Civil War fabric time yet, right? This is some kind of a lightweight lawn. And it's amazing that this block has survived, because you know what? It's red. Red is usually the first color that goes. So it's amazing that this piece looks as good as it does. I just think it's a beautiful block. I had to show it to you. Last question. Number 28 down. This famous 20th century Connecticut artist, Alexander Blank, almost said it, was famous for his mobiles, but also dabbled in hook rug design. I hope you remember this series of shows. We did this like maybe 5 years ago. I had started the channel, and somebody wrote and said, I think I have a rug by Alexander. Here's the answer. Calder, Calder. And I started working back and forth with him. And the fact that he wrote me and started this conversation, and he did, put me down the rabbit hole, and I found all of this information about Alexander Calder's rugs. He was mostly a sculptor and a painter. Well done, Rita. And he also, for fun, made, so this is him with his very famous mobiles, right? This is his main gig for sure. But he also designed rugs. And if you remember from this episode, this is another episode. There's more than one that would be fun to go back to. I found all of these newspaper articles and stuff that are now online, and was able to learn that he, for fun, liked designing textiles, and he designed textiles, and his wife hooked many of them. He hooked some. I don't know if they hooked together or if he ever completed one on his own. The neighbors came in and hooked too. So in his fancy sort of mid-century modern super chic house, with all of this cool MCM stuff around, he got his neighbors interested in rug hooking. And so it started off great, right? Oh, hooked pieces by Alexander Calder and his wife. I can't remember his wife's name at the top of my head. So you see his initial, it's the AC. It looks like CA, but that's the AC. He designed it, but LSR. I would have to watch back on my own show to figure out if that is his wife or if that is a neighbor. If you remember, the problem here with the Alexander Calder rugs was that so many of his neighbors got passionate about hooking them that they were hooking them without him knowing, and he lost track of which ones were actually his rugs and which ones were hooked by other people that really had nothing to do with him. Because you can see he's using shapes very Matisse influenced, right? Like cutout shapes kind of things. And it became a real problem. And it is a huge problem with attributing now. When you find an Alexander Calder rug, which I got to say is not likely, will you be able to know whether it was hooked by him and or his wife, or if he knows who the hooker is? And the answer is, unless it's signed by him and or his wife, the answer is no, because the thing got out of control. The rug hooking got out of control. I forget what town he's from in Connecticut. Uh, I do remember the story, the awful story about how he had all this beautiful sculpture in his backyard. And when he died, a lot of stuff he gave away, museums and everything. A lot of local museums obviously have his work, but some stuff, installations were left in his backyard. And I remember someone saying that the person who bought it did not like them and did not take care of them. And I don't know what the status of them is now, but it's like, wow, all of those beautiful pieces out there rotting. Yeah. In any case, um, fact is stranger than fiction sometimes, isn't it? That was fun. I really enjoyed that. It was fun. And, it's hard to think of questions for this once you're sitting down and it's time to start thinking of questions. Um, I'd like to do another one of these. So I will say, hey, if when you're sitting around, you're falling asleep in bed, you are in the bathroom, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you start thinking to yourself, oh, I thought of a really good question for a crossword puzzle night, send it to me, please. It was really hard. I thought I didn't have enough. It turned out I probably had too many for tonight because we went a little bit over. But if you think of ones, you won't be, well, I mean, you can guess and you can get it right. It won't be fun for you to guess, but I definitely could use help putting another one of these together because I feel like every month I want to have a gallery night. Next week is gallery night. And I feel like every month I would like to have some kind of game night. It's just fun, right? So, yeah, thank you, Sharon. Mom, I totally enjoyed this. Trip down memory lane, lots of references to other shows because we've talked about all this stuff. We've been talking about rug hooking together for years, but I hope that it was fun in the format of the crossword puzzle. Now, if you joined us late and you're thinking, what are you doing? We are filling out this crossword puzzle, and the crossword puzzle is linked to the Facebook post on Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club. Also in the YouTube post is a link to the crossword puzzle. Also, in the description of this video is a link to this crossword puzzle. So if you thought, well, I've caught some of the last answers, but I'd really like to have the whole puzzle, or I'd like to bring the puzzle to a guild meeting so that other people could try to do it, you should. I didn't put it there to rot. We've enjoyed it. We have had our fun. You are welcome to do whatever you want with it now. But I would like to do some kind of game every month. It is fun. It still slides and everything for me on this end, but it's fun interaction. We used to do trivia too. So think about what the next one will be. I'm going to go have some food. I'm very happy that you were here with me tonight. Remember all the fun things we have coming up. The Design Like Clarice Cliff coming up the first week of March. I am going to put Lynn. I'm putting the multi-strand braiding on there soon. I have to do the sample rug. That'll be something for next week. And then, of course, the Tigger stuff coming up the first weekend of March. If you want to be part of that hook-in with that design I did of the welcome, the Newport welcome. It's the pineapple design I showed you at the beginning of the show. That's for Tigger members only, so that's something to think about. But lots of stuff on the calendar right now. Thought I had something else. No, I'll come out with the March kit in about a week. And Magpie Times is out, the first one for 2026. Be thinking about yeah, no, Catherine, don't let the crossword rot. It'd be great if people who are rug hookers get to use it and get to have fun with it, right? And if they don't know the answers, you send them a link to this video, and then they get the answers here with us tonight. A lot of fun. It really was. No rotting for us. Hey, stay warm this weekend if you're getting more snow or that wintry mix. And I will be back with you on Monday. Haven't even thought about it yet, but I plan to be here. I had a lot of fun too. Have a great weekend, everybody. And I will be back with you on Monday. Something fun is coming your way. and be thinking about what you're going to be putting into that the second issue of Magpie Times for 2026, the summer issue. Think about what you can do for Magpie Times. It needs your special stamp